So when you bought that house, you became a first-time landlord.
Correct.
How did that experience go for you your first year?
So, yeah, I'd say the first year or two, I had learned a lot of things. We lived in the house, which made it a little more awkward if we had the wrong renters in the basement. Luckily, our renters, when we lived there, were great. They were wonderful renters. But then when we moved out and we were trying to rent both sides, we didn't have a property manager at the time, and everybody had their sob story, and we didn't really follow the rules as far as you only rent to people with these ratios, and you check their credit. We didn't know how to check people's credit. We were just kind of hacking it as we could, you know.
You just don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
So you wing it.
Yeah, we were winging it by far, and you know, I did have to evict my first people, and I had no idea how to evict someone, so I just got a 3-day notice, put it on the door, and they left. I was like, that was great. So
that's a good first experience.
Yeah, good luck.
It worked out okay for me. But what it was is they were breaking the rules, and I said, "You're breaking the rules. Yeah, you got to leave." And they listened. So.
And even after that, you're still here today and you're investing. I think a lot of people think like eviction is the end of the world when it's not.
No.
Like you literally put a piece of paper on the door and you probably didn't really fully understand what it meant either, but they left. You got the same result.
Yeah, and I've had to evict people since then a couple times, but usually
known risk.
Yeah, usually with the way we work, when people can't afford it anymore, they come to us and ask, can we get out of the lease? Which is way better than going to a house that's been vacant for months and you had no idea. Someone just left.
Someone just left, right?
Yeah.
So then, because obviously you've had a lot of experience with both good and bad tenants.
Yeah.
So if somebody what would you tell somebody who is looking into getting into a house hack, but they were just nervous about like the property management side? What kind of advice would you tell them?
Well, first off, there's tons of resources out there on property management, and here in Utah, there's a lot of mentors that are out there. I've learned so much from my mentors over the years. So for me, it just got to where I was just too busy to manage it myself, but I can manage them. I prefer my property managers because they're so much better at it. But if you're down to the wire as far as income and you want to manage yourself, just make sure you don't give in to those crazy sob stories, and make sure you check their credit. There's actually ways to check it for really cheap. Make sure you check their backgrounds, make the phone calls. If you spend a couple hours before you give someone the place, you can
avoid yourself like weeks of
avoid sometimes months of headaches.
I believe that.
You know, there was I inherited a property one time where I brought the tenants in. You know, I bought it with the tenants in the home, and had to. The judge, I wasn't there. My property manager went to court for me, but he told me the story. The judge is just like, you haven't paid rent in 6 months and you're complaining about a window that's leaking air. Get out of my courtroom.
So leaking air, I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, he's like, the landlord didn't replace my window. It was leaking air, and I hadn't even heard his complaint. So that was the funny part. But he's like, just get out of my courtroom. So I mean, yes, sometimes you have to evict, but it's not the end of the world. There's eviction attorneys that make it really easy, and
thankfully you're in a landlord-friendly state too.
Yeah, I've heard stories of other states where it's definitely
a lot harder.